Hey, world history students, Mr. Sunday here once again. The last time we were together, we talked about the end of Napoleon, how he died on an island, being held captive by the British. Well, what's going to happen to Europe after this is over with? Napoleon really changed a lot of things. And one thing that grew among all the nations in Europe after he was gone was something called nationalism. Now, nationalism is a pride and loyalty to a people who share a common country, a common language, king, queen, or emperor, a culture or a history. We hear the word nationalism around our country a lot today, and some people think it's a good thing, some people think it's a bad thing. Well, what happened was the French people now felt very nationalistic. They felt proud for what they had accomplished all the years Napoleon had been their leader because of all the places they conquered. But now, after Napoleon's gone, the other European leaders got together and had a big conference. And they decided, it was called the Congress of Vienna, and they decided, well, we have to put the French back within their boundaries again. And then suddenly some new nations were born in Europe who hadn't had their independence before, like the Netherlands, like Switzerland. And all around Europe, people from other nations were feeling a sense of nationalism as well. Now, one thing that's very confusing, especially to people in the United States of America, is the word nationalism. Nationalism is something that grows within a people because they feel like they have a sense of being better than other people in the world because of the blood that's in their veins, the heritage that they have, the languages and stuff that they used to share in the past. In our country, we have something different. It's called patriotism. Patriotism is love and devotion to a nation for this reason, because of the principles that we stand for, because of the standards that we try to live by, and because of the achievements that we have already accomplished and the ones that we've yet to accomplish. In our nation, we don't have a common language from the people, from its roots. We came from all parts of the world. And we're not looking back on this history and saying, oh, aren't we great because of the blood that flows in our veins? No, we have a patriotism because it's a conglomeration of a whole bunch of heritages put together, realizing that we can be something better that has been in the past. And so when people say, oh, we have nationalism is a good thing for Americans, it's really not. Patriotism is the thing we should strive for. This sense of nationalism in Europe led to some revolutions after the fall of Napoleon and some unifications. There were people who wanted to seek kind of their ethnic heritage and their ethnic independence from other places. Some of the revolutions that happened, there was a revolution in Greece. Greece had been taken over by another empire years and years ago, and the Greek people wanted to have their own Greek identity, and they fought a big revolution in the mid-1800s, and they won, and they became their own country once again. Another place was Belgium. Belgium had two ethnic groups living within it. They were the Flemish and the Walloons, and they had always been controlled by other bigger countries like Spain and some of the German empires, and they had their own revolution as well. Unifications. One of the biggest unifications that happened was the big peninsula that we call Italy today. Italy had been a bunch of different small kingdoms. It had not been one unified country since the Roman Empire. And they decided, no, all of us Italian-speaking people, we need to have our own nation. And they fought to have the whole place unified. The same, another one was Germany. Germany had always been a bunch of little principalities or part of the Holy Roman Empire. In the 1870s, the Prussian king, Kaiser Wilhelm I, he decided he wanted to unite all the German-speaking peoples together into one nation, and it was accomplished. Well, one thing I remember that I thought was a really funny story, and I thought I'd share it with you right now, was the story about this king from the Austria-Hungary Empire. And the thing was, he was caught, and he was this, and he found it. You see, told you that would happen that way, and it all ended up in that way, and they were all buried together in the same grave. And that was just one of the funniest things I'd ever heard in history. I thought I'd tell it to you in this lesson. Wasn't that great? Well, the Austrian-Hungary Empire was right in the middle of Europe at this time. While all these other countries around the empire were becoming independent with their own nationalities, the Austria-Hungary Empire was left of the old Holy Roman Empire. Austria and Hungary decided to combine their two nations together because they controlled so much land, and they had one emperor who controlled all these different types of people. There were Germans in this empire, Italians, Croats, Slovenians, Serbs, Bosnians, Hungarians, Poles, Czechs, Slovaks, Bulgarians, Romanians. All these people were being ruled by one emperor, and they were getting tired of it. All of them wanted their own ethnic identity. They wanted their own nation, and it slowly will come to a head in the next century as being a big, big mess. Another empire that existed at this time was one that had come onto the scene a long time before. They were known as the Ottoman Empire. The Ottomans were a tribe of Muslims that had put together a sultanate, and they started conquering further and further to the west. They conquered Anatolia, led by Osman I, the Sultan. He conquered all of Anatolia, which is now Turkey. Short time, that was about 1299. And then Mehmed II, who was a great conquering man, he was able to conquer the city of Constantinople, the old Byzantine Empire that was still standing. That happened in 1453, and he changed the name of Constantinople to its current name, which is Istanbul. Then, in the 16th century, a great sultan from the Ottoman Empire, his name was Suleiman the Magnificent. He went on the warpath and conquered all of the kingdoms across northern Africa, from Egypt all the way over to Morocco. And he had placed his leadership over these nations too. The thing that they had in common was their religion. They were all Muslims. But as the years go by, and as the 20th century nears, all these different ethnic groups are tired of being ruled by one sultan, one emperor back in Istanbul. There will be a lot of other things that happen. Nationalism is one of the building blocks that's going to lead to a great conflict at the beginning of the 20th century. And we'll talk more about that in our next lesson. Getting close to the end, everybody. We'll see you soon.